Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/Let's Not Meet, where you find some creepy people and some normal people, and they get together and have an absolutely terrible time. If you enjoy, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below and hit that notification bell. Now, without further ado, let's get started, shall we? Strange woman harassed me at home, demanding to see someone that never lived there. I'm a woman in my 30s who lives alone in a small house at the head of a quiet cul-de-sac in the UK. The street is a maze of roads away from the main road, which means that other than delivery guys and the occasional salesperson, you rarely see anyone you don't recognize. I don't exactly know all my neighbors, but I know what they look like. I know where they live, and I can recognize their cars and so on. This weirdness happened over the space of a few months several years back. I work from home, I'm usually in, and sometimes I don't have a lot to do. The first day was one of those lazy days. It was about 4 p.m. and I'm sitting on the sofa, watching some daft stuff about alien cover-ups. Someone knocked on the door. I have a surveillance camera hidden in the wooden canopy above the front door, so I checked to see who it was because I wasn't expecting any deliveries, and I couldn't be bothered to deal with the salesperson. It was a woman who looked late 40s to early 50s, very smartly dressed, like real expensive clothes and jewelry, stuff I could never afford. Most people around here generally couldn't afford it either. We're not an affluent area, and this lady stuck out like a sore thumb. She looked flustered and agitated, glancing towards the back garden before trying to look through a tiny, frosted glass window on the front door. I noticed she was carrying a dog's lead, but I didn't see a dog. As it so happens, at the far part of my back garden there are two hedges. There's the hedge that I own within my property boundaries, and there's a second hedge outside my boundary that's council owned, along a small grassland where people walk dogs. I know for a fact there's a hole in the council owned hedge, which I've reported to the council at least a dozen times over the past decade, and they've done the square root of sod all about it. Because of my hedge, I can't reach it to do anything about it myself. Consequently, when I saw the dog's lead, I thought, crud, I bet her dog has gone through the hole. If it's a big dog, it's not getting into my garden, but if it's a small dog, it might be able to work its way through, and I've always got some cooked meat, so I figured I might be able to lure it out. I am a dog lover, so of course I want to help this woman if I can. When I was a kid, my own dog went missing for a few weeks, and I thought I was never going to get him back. I was heartbroken for those weeks, but fortunately we did get him back, and ever since I've been extremely sensitive to pets in need. I open the door and this woman gives me the weirdest look, like she was expecting someone completely different to answer the door, and that I shouldn't be there. To be fair to her, my mom used to live here too, so I didn't think too much of that weird look to begin with. Maybe she was expecting my mom. I say hello, and she just stares at me for the longest 30 seconds, before she tries to look past me and asks to see Margaret. I don't know what that I don't know what it is about other people's mistakes, but whenever someone has the wrong number, I always end up apologizing as if it's my fault. So that's what I did, apologized and told her there was no Margaret at this address. Again she gives me that look, only this time there's anger behind it.
Yes, there he is.
She insists. It occurs to me at this point that I have a relative called Margaret, but she lives about 60 miles away and I haven't seen her in years. Nonetheless, just in case she's got her addresses muddled, I ask, "Are you looking for Margaret insert surname?" But she just hisses at me.
You know exactly who I'm looking for. What have you done with her?
I am absolutely lost at this point. I've lived here 20 years and I know the name of the previous owner, so I know she's not asking for them. I also know the name of the neighbors and the names of the people who have lived on the street and the time I've been here and since moved. None of them are called Margaret, so all I can do is tell her she's got the wrong address.
No, this is...
Insert my address.
You're lying.
And that was a tad alarming. She's at the right address. She's not knocked on the wrong door. However, she clearly thinks I've done something to somebody who, to the best of my knowledge, never lived here. I don't know how long the previous owner might have had this house, but we must be talking about at least 30 years since anyone called Margaret might have lived here. It's at this point I notice that she subtly wrapped the dog lead around her now clenched fist, like she's planning to use it as a weapon. In my youth, I did plenty of self-defense training, so I'm not exactly scared of her. As such, I'm obviously getting a bit concerned about the situation that's brewing. I don't particularly wish to get involved in a brawl on my doorstep with a complete stranger. I'm torn between shutting the door in her face or trying to de-escalate the situation. In the end, I close the door a little so she's got less aim and tell her, look, I don't know who you're looking for, but if you think something's happened to your friend, maybe you should just call the police and let them sort it out? Sure enough, the woman slams her fist with the lead wrapped around it into my door. I later discovered she'd stuck the door hard enough to crack the frosted glass window in the middle of it. She's bleeding from doing it. It must have hurt, but she doesn't flinch or show any sign of pain. What the hell? Any confidence I had in my self-defense classes started to waver here, because I'm not used to people who don't feel pain. All I can think now is that she's on something and having a really bad trip. So at this point, I put on my scariest voice and tell her to get the frick back. I let her know I'm calling the police. If she's still here when they get here, she can deal with them because I'm not dealing with her anymore. She tries to stop me from closing the door, but I shove her back and manage to get it closed and locked. I made points to stand next to the door while I'm calling 911 so she can hear me. While I'm waiting for the police to turn up, I watch her on surveillance feed. She moves out of shot multiple times, presumably to check the back of the house, and I hear her calling out for Margaret. A few minutes before the police finally turn up, I see her kick over my wheelie bins in a rage. But then the most chilling thing happens. She walks back to the front door and literally stares directly into my camera. The camera is pretty well hidden. I'm not saying that nobody could spot it, but most people would only know if it was there if they'd been looking for it. Most people aren't looking for cameras, right? She knew it was there. She must have eyeballed it previously. When? I don't know. I later reviewed all of the footage I had from that day, and she never made eye contact with it once. She never even looked in that direction. I only had about a week's worth of footage before the oldest footage was overwritten, and I checked everything I had, and she was only on camera that one day. All I can think is she's been here more than a week prior. While she's staring right into it, she flips me the finger, then makes a throat-cutting gesture before walking off. I head to the window to watch her leave, and she's walking like she doesn't have a care in the world. She just doesn't look back, just wanders away. The police finally show up. Good job, I wasn't being murdered. Take a statement, and I give them a copy of the surveillance footage, and that's that. I called a couple times to follow up, but nothing. Nobody ever called me about it. I won't lie, this tore me up for a few weeks. I moved the knife block closer to the door, though out of sight of any windows. I started staying up really late and not getting much sleep, which really didn't help. On some nights I was so tired I started experiencing auditory hallucinations. I'd hear people who weren't there talking, and because this woman was the cause of all my stress, I heard her voice, and the same name Margaret most of all. Every day I heard the gate open, it put me on edge. I'd review the surveillance footage every day. Eventually, as the weeks passed and I hadn't heard anything else, I started to regain some of my comfort and just put it down to a weird experience. It didn't last. About 4, maybe 5 weeks after the first encounter, she came back. It was just after midnight. I was in the living room mucking about on my personal phone, with the TV on low volume for some background noise. I heard a car door slam and peek out the front window. A dark-colored car was parked at the end of my driveway. I couldn't see what make or model it was, but it looked like it was some sort of estate car. I think Americans call them station wagons. I didn't see anyone moving, but about a minute or two later, the front gate swung open, with its metallic groaning, and there was a knock on the door. Even when I'm not involved in a blood feud over imaginary Margarets, I'm not going to answer the door at that time. I checked the surveillance camera. Its night vision mode is pretty cruddy, but I'm positive it's that woman again. I can even see what I think is the dog lead. And of course she knows I'm watching her because she looks at the camera again. And I tell you, when somebody's already giving you the heebie-jeebies, the way night vision makes people's eyes look like soulless black voids doesn't do much to make you feel better. Suddenly she yells out, "Shut the freaking racket off and come out here now!" I had the TV on, but as I mentioned, it was on a very low volume. There's no way she could have heard it from outside that front door. I couldn't even hear it if I walked into my hallway. I'm convinced at this point she's mentally unwell, so I call the police again. I want them to stay on the line, but they just tell me that someone will be over soon and to call them back immediately if things escalate. So I'm waiting, watching, and just hoping she doesn't try to smash my window or something. She kicks over my wheelie bins again, don't know what she's got against them, and yells something else out, which I couldn't quite make out, but whatever it was enough for one of the neighbors to come over and investigate themselves. I watched the neighbor talking with her for a minute. She's demonstrating about something, wagging her finger towards my front door, but my neighbor is eventually able to get her to leave. He even sticks around for a bit to make sure she's gone. Sadly, that also means she'd been gone before the police turned up again, and made me feel like I was a bother to them. Another statement, handing over more security footage, more nothing. I caught up with the neighbor the next day and he apologized because it didn't occur to him to make a note of the registration plate. But he told me that she'd said pretty much the same thing as she'd said to me previously. She wanted to know where Margaret was and what I'd done with her. I'm grasping for answers at this point. Even if she's mentally unwell, the fact she's sticking to this Margaret story and has the right address makes me think there's something more to this than somebody having a breakdown. And then it clicks. Is Margaret her dog? Does she think I've stolen her dog? Did she have a dog go through the hole in the back? Does she think I've hurt her dog? Is that what this is about? It'd be another few weeks before she came back. This time at 3 a.m., I'm awoken by knocking on the door. A few minutes later, I hear tapping on the bedroom window. I know it's her. I hear her saying things, but I can't really make them out because she's too muffled through the window. It's like she didn't want to get the neighbor out again, so she's trying to keep it quiet. I jump out of bed and put some clothes on quickly as I can. I try and follow her as best as I can as she moves around the outside of the house, from room to room, knocking, tapping, and muttering. I think I hear a few coherent words like noise and racket, and I'm pretty sure she called me the B word, but maybe I was imagining that. I can't check the surveillance footage this time because she spray painted the damn lens. Not that it'd matter this much this time, she's not lingering by the front door. I think about calling the police again, but it's proven a waste of time so far, and I get the feeling if I call them out a third time and she's gone, they're just going to start accusing me of wasting their time, even if I do have evidence. They have not exactly been helpful so far. In the end, I wait by the front door and listen for her. Eventually she knocks again and I call out, "Is Margaret your dog?" Dead silence, nothing. I can't see anything through the frosted glass because it's too dark. I have no idea where she is, and I don't want to turn the outside lights on. I don't even know why she knows I'm in the house because I've called out to her, but I still don't want to draw any more attention to myself. I end up standing there for who knows how long. At least an hour, probably more because the sun starts coming up. My heart is going a mile a minute, pretty much the whole time. Once it's bright enough, I start checking through the windows to see if I can see her. Nope, nothing. I tentatively open the front door and look outside. Still can't see her. I grab something to arm myself, just in case. I can't remember what now, and I check all of my house to the back garden. She's not there. As I'm heading back to the front door, I spot the oddest thing. The gate's closed. That gate is physically attached to the side of my house, and when it opens and closes, it makes a fair bit of noise. You would definitely hear it if somebody opened or closed it when you were just standing next to the front door. But it's closed, so what does that mean? Did she jump it somehow? It's possible, I guess, but I wouldn't want to try it. Anyway, I open the gate and head out to the end of the driveway. I look around and there's no sign of anyone. I turn back to the house and see she spray painted liar on the front of my house and left the dog lead on the floor beneath it. That was thankfully the last time I ever heard or saw this woman, but I think she still comes by sometimes. Ever since all this happened, I get those creeped out feelings occasionally at night, and check out the window. I don't know if whether I'm imagining her or not, but now and again I swear I see a dark-colored estate car out on the street. Not parked at the end of my driveway these days, but I just can't shake the feeling she's still in there, watching my house. Perhaps she was looking for her dog, and keeps thinking that she'll see me with it? I don't know. I was almost the victim of a killer. Over 4 years ago, I went to work at a warehouse in the small town that I'm from. I decided to leave after my health started to get worse physically, and I was diagnosed with panic disorder and severe anxiety after the situation I'm about to tell you. This changed the way that I developed friendships after that job, that's for certain. So I started this job on April Fools of 2018, which was odd to me, and I had no kind of high expectation of the job. All I wanted to do was my job, get paid, and go home, as I had 2 children at home and many things that I could work on there. The job wasn't hard, and I made pretty good money for all duties considered, so I really couldn't complain. I worked second shift for about 5 months, and I went to day shift. While working on second shift, I kept to myself mostly, until one day I met someone from one of the lines after we struck up a conversation about gaming. For the sake of anonymity, we'll call him JF. Well, JF was a pretty good guy, and we had a lot of things in common. I went home that night, and he popped up as a suggested friend on Facebook. Again, another oddity, so I decided to add him. When I did, we started talking more at work, until he suggested that we should hang out, so we did hang out pretty frequently. We were friends for a month at this point, and one day, he decided he was going to introduce me to his partner. She seemed decent at first, super nice. Didn't seem to be a judgmental type, so I was cool with her. From then on, I would hang out with him when my kids were spending time with my mother. One time we were talking at a restaurant when he started to vent to me. Dude, she's such a bitch sometimes. The other day I forgot to take the trash out and she threatened to stab me if I didn't. Dude, I've never been in a relationship where someone's threatened me. But she's got good intentions. When he said that to me, I was concerned, but of course we had only been friends for a month. So I thought that maybe he was being morbidly joking. So I chuckled at him. He gave me a pretty serious look and said, "I'm not joking, she really did," and that concerned me. Fast forward about 8 months, they're still together and we all hang out pretty regularly, forgetting the things he told me then. One day we were all talking and he seemed a bit off that day, so I asked him what was wrong in front of her. He flashed a smirk and said, "Nothing, dude, I'm just a little tired." He didn't have his eyes on me though, he had them on her when I asked that. When we went to work the next day, I asked him again, "Do you promise to keep this between us?" "Of course," I agreed. He said that he was breaking up with her and that she was a little crazy. He said that she grabbed her gun and pointed at him and sang, "If I can't have you, then no one will." He said that he diffused the situation and is trying to look for a way out. Not really knowing what to say, I just said, "You'll figure it out, man. If you need somewhere to go, then you can come stay with me until you get her out of the house." Fast forward another year, he decided to leave her. When he did, she flipped out again. This time he told her over text. She said that she was going to find him and off him, and that he was out of work that day with a vacation day. He sent me a text that said, "Hey, let me know if she comes over to work looking for me." And that struck me as odd because I had no idea of the situation that was unfolding. She actually did come to our job and asked me where he was, and all I said is I have no idea. I thought he was with you and you guys went out of town or something. All she did was roll up her window and drive off. I called him and told him that she came by, and he called the police about it. They had found her up the road with a loaded gun in the car. 2 months later, he decided to talk to her again, and when he did, he had something to tell me. When he called me, he asked if I'd seen her around, and I hadn't. He said, "I would take some vacation days if I were you." Dumbfounded, I asked why. He said to me, "Because she's out of jail, and her cousins are in town trying to find the people she has personal vendettas with, and you're one of them." At that point, I was terrified. I grabbed my kids and went out of town. Took 2 weeks off of work. Come to find out the next day, her and her cousins went to the next town over and shot 3 people in an apartment and killed them. I got the news about it the day after it happened. The reason he knew they were coming after me is because they made a Facebook Messenger group that he was included in and sent a list of names. Everyone regarded it as spam and tried to disregard the message, but he knew what it was. 3 of the names on that list were the people that they shot. The 4th name on that list was mine. After they found the evidence, he decided to go public about the group and screenshots that he had, and they were all charged with first-degree murder. From then on, I was very careful about who I would stick my neck out for, because even though he knew the context of that list and her intentions, he decided not to inform anyone else on it. Needless to say, we aren't friends anymore, and I dodged a bullet. Literally. Sorry for the long post, I felt like it needed context. Stay safe, y'all. That's the end of today's video. I will see you all next time. I hope you have a nice day. Take care of yourselves. Hasta la pasta.